my theme is living in universal time, I started realizing how much I am tied to time. So this morning, we're 2 hours earlier than you are in the east. I'm out in the Alberta, near Calgary area. And I kept waking up to see what time it was and what to get up. And I thought, isn't that interesting that I would be so tied to time? And so, of course, on this earth plane, we have this organization where we have to meet each other at certain times, as we do this morning. And yet, I had the opportunity to move out of the Calgary area into the countryside, which is probably why the internet is a little bit unstable at the moment, but we'll just let that one go. And so I was out in the countryside on a 165-acre ranch and lived there for since June. And I, of course, have lived my life on stage. I've done many, many performances all across the country. I'm working with kids and doing workshops and sound and healing workshops. And I'm used to big audiences and conventions, cruise ships, and so on. So here I was out in the countryside, taking part in the community gardens, all by myself, watering for the other people. And there were 5 cows on the other side of the fence, and they heard me singing. So they all came up and stood in a line facing me. And so I thought, well, there's my new audience. So, so I sang to the cows. It struck me so funny that there they were, just being themselves, not having any agendas like we do as human beings, where we can choose what we want. We can worry if we want, we can doubt if we want, we can have some angst if we want, or we can choose other directions. So my intention when it was asked of us by Yvonne, thank you for Amon, for this morning, not just this morning, but at other times and throughout my life, is to be in touch and in tune with my own energy, and in that be free. So having grown up on the stage for my whole life, since I was actually 5, just a few years ago, I had that feeling that maybe I was special. Now, when you feel that feeling of being special, you actually set yourself apart from others. And that has nothing to do with oneness, so it is not the truth. So for some reason, I grew up with a lot of accolades, a lot of scholarships. I was winning things. My name was in the paper a lot. So I started getting the feeling that that was who I was. And so I acted the part. But down deep inside of me, I felt inferior, but I didn't want anyone to know that. So I pretended exactly the opposite. So the core belief, which was not true about me, was that I was inferior. And therefore, my behavior was exactly the opposite. And I carried that on for quite some time until I realized that I was just crying out just to be me, just to be me. So if I would have feelings that were maybe less than what I thought I should be experiencing, I would pretend that it wasn't there. In other words, I would stuff it down until there's a point where you can't do that any longer. I couldn't do that any longer because it didn't feel true to my heart. So this continued for some time till I said, what would it be like to live and just to be without any of these agendas, without having to be something that I was not, without pretending that I was something that I was not? What would that be like? What would it be like to just live and be without a schedule? Now, that doesn't mean to say that I couldn't make my appointments on time, but I was taught at a very young age that my worth and my value was in accomplishing things. And yes, I have accomplished many things, but that my mom, I can remember my mom used to say, if she went through a day and she didn't feel as if she'd had enough to do or she hadn't done everything on her list, she would say, oh, I just wasted the whole day. I didn't get anything done. So then I got thinking, well, why would she say her whole day was wasted when the essence of my mom was so much fun and She was such a joy to be around, and her sense of humor, her talent, her amazing artistic talents. So why would she put herself down? So I learned that. I learned that I had to keep part of myself hidden. So I just put this out to you now so that you will ask yourself very honestly, who am I? And you don't have to have an answer necessarily. It may come to you, it may not, or it might be just silence. So I do a lot of work with sound and healing, and of course, teaching, singing, teaching voice, performing. So I absolutely love seeing other people shine. So when I'm teaching, I've done quite a lot on Zoom. I have clients all over the world actually right now. And it's actually very effective. I never really thought that I would want to experience that on Zoom, but it's a platform that we have right now. So take advantage of it. And so when I'm working with people, either with speaking or with singing, it's more than just the technique of taking a breath from the pushing your ribs out at the side and using your diaphragm. I won't go into all the technical part of it. It's more than that. That's the physical part of it. But what it is when we do sound work, voice work, singing, toning, is that we are bringing the presence. I call it the beloved I am presence. So we're bringing the presence through the in-breath, and on the out-breath is when I offer back the presence to the world. In this case, we're looking at each other now. So I'm bringing it through. So I live, but not the little me. The Christ liveth in me, or the Christ consciousness liveth in me. So there was a shift for me living out in the countryside for this last while, in that I slowed down more. My concert that I had anticipated doing actually in 2020 kept getting postponed. And I said, okay, we'll just let that one go, because there were a lot of tickets sold, which are still on hold. I thought, okay, obviously there's a reason why all of this has happened, world situations. I need to go within. I need to go and experience inner growth. And that is what I have done. And in that, there has been this most incredible awakening, being in touch with my own energy. So have you ever found that there's a tendency to talk about other people? I've been in many, many different circles, of course, a lot in theater circles, and everybody's trying to make a good impression because they want the next job. And you get asked sometimes, what are you doing with your life and what is happening now? And there's a tendency to paint a big picture. Oh, I'm working on this project. And maybe you're just totally out of work and you don't have it. But there was a tendency not to even admit that. So I found that what is hidden cannot be healed. And so for me, being on stage so often, the pretending I was okay, if really maybe I wasn't feeling okay. So I have somebody very, very dear to me who had a car accident, or had a vehicle accident on December the 8th. And it was on a country road, and a woman ran a yield sign. So they have accepted responsibility for that. But the reason I mention it is that my dear friend, he fractured the C2 in the neck. So that's called the hangman's fracture. So luckily he was not paralyzed. He can still walk, but he has to wear a halo. And the halo comes up like this and screwed into his head. You've probably seen them. And there are bars that come right down here and attached to here. And there's this metal plates. And then there's a plastic heart. I mean, it's quite an apparatus. So he can only turn like this and like this. So I have been assisting and helping when I can, just to help him, because there's many things now he actually can do. From stuff he can walk, thank God he can walk, but he was not able to even get out of a chair at first. So we've had many deep conversations, and what I honor about this person is that he speaks what is happening for him right now. So for me, in my beliefs, notice that the word lie is in the word belief. But anyway, in my beliefs, I had this sense that, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way because I know better. So what does that do instantly is it puts myself down. And yet we are all born with royal dignity. We all have these incredible talents. We have immortality. We can go out and spread abundance and joy to the world and use our creative genius. We have all these gifts. And yes, we are the individualized presence of God. But how much do we actually know that? So not just saying it. So there's a difference between I would say, okay, I'll just use my own experience here of me pretending I'm spiritual with quotes around it and saying all the right things, saying what is true and what I've learned. And then there's the inner knowing when I am that without pretending I am that. So in some of the different communities, they like to do affirmations. Now, nothing is right nor wrong, but thinking makes it so. So I'm just pointing this out because it's my experience that sometimes I would say the words by rote, is almost as if I had them memorized. I am, by all God's love, I know I am, and in God, with God, by God, and for God. Yes, that's true. It feels true. However, after a while, it became just the words. And it wasn't really the intent or the meaning or the feeling or the owning or the claiming of that. It would be just the words. So for instance, in this scenario, I might have gotten up in the morning and I did my affirmations and I felt really, really good about myself. And I always found there's a downfall though for me. If I told somebody else how good I was feeling, that's when I usually blew it. So anyway, I did affirmations and as I say, feeling extremely good, very, very proud of myself. Oh, I'm self-realized now. And then I get in the car to go into the busy traffic and feeling very good about myself, even with my energy pushing the car ahead of me with my energy and back so I have some space. So I'm feeling, as I say, I'm affirming God is, only God is, and I am love, I am light, all of this. And then somebody got it cuts me off right in front of me. And I well, gave him the finger and says, idiot. So, and then suddenly I realized that, oh, I'm full of love and light. So I just sort of, put up the other finger and the peace sign and child of God acting like idiot. So I caught myself pretending I was spiritual. So that was always a catch. And I just wanted to bring that forward to the spiritual community so that we are aware that we can be so real and it's the presence within us that doeth the works. It's the presence within us that doeth the works. Now, even as I say that, that can sound spiritual. Now, I'm not putting anything down because there is no right or wrong. I'm just bringing this to your awareness as I am becoming aware of that. So for me, if I was feeling something that was very deep or that I didn't want to have a look at, and I remember I suppressed it. Now my friend who's had the accident in December the 8th, and I was kind of 7 weeks into it now, when he is feeling just, I want to get these bars off. I want to go and pound pillows, which he can't because he doesn't want to hurt his neck. Or he is so honest with what is happening for him right then and there, with no judgment. So I learned a huge amount from my friend by this. I said, oh, and the thing is, because he is so honest right then and there with what he is experiencing in that moment and going into it and sensing it, going into that, then out of that, by being honest, comes that enlightenment or comes that freedom. And so for me, I've always wanted to be free, to feel free. And someone would say, what do you want? I want to just be free, I would say. So if I kept saying that over and over and over again, it meant I wasn't free. I wanted it, but I wasn't experiencing it. And so there's just a shift. And for me, I used to think that oh, I have to process something over and over and over and over and over and over ad infinitum, over and over and over. And now I have learned that it is very easy for me to just be true to what's going on for me right then and there. I don't have to keep it. And then I can let it go and bring in what I do want. And it can happen in an instant. It's not that it's someplace that I am not, because the presence is always where we are. It is right here. The peace that passeth all understanding is right here, right now. So that to me then is living in universal time. So I've had glimpses of living in the present. But then why would I skip out of it and then go in and out of it? Why not, as another dear friend said to me, why not be in the presence of God, even if you're cleaning the latrine? That's exactly what you said to me. And I thought, what? Why is it that I have this or had this idea that I needed to be spiritual and enlightened when I was in this setting, but not over here in this setting? See, everything is spiritual. Everything is now. So on the earth plane, we tend to measure time on horizontally. So we have, even saying the word present, and I say that lots, so say be present. But even that word, and it's semantics and it doesn't really matter, but even that indicates that there is then a past and there is then the future. And then I bring my past experiences into projecting into the future. And I know that you do all know this and realize this. And as I talk, I know that as teachers or leaders, we teach what we most need to learn. So as I say that, then I remember that it is now and now and now. So I had a wonderful marriage with my husband, Tink Robinson. A big, long, lovely, incredible marriage. And we were on stage together. We did so much work together all of the time. And he passed 6 years ago. He wrote beautiful poetry. And there's one that I just thought of this morning. It was actually called The Rock. And I'd like to read to you just a little snippet of it, because it is so wise. And it's actually the story about a rock on a big mountainside that dislodges, and it falls and tumbles down the mountainside. And then there's a whole lot of imagery about that rock and what happens and how times change throughout that. So I'll just start in part of it here. And it says, "For nothing stays as it once was, a fleeting second in the past. The now is then and gone again, a moment that can't surely last, a butterfly of beauteous grace, elusive as the thunder's roar, an eagle's feather left behind, where eagle's flight is seen no more. And yet, in this vast symmetry of towering cliffs and pine-filled space, a master plan unfolding is the purpose for this wondrous grace. The mountain peak in sunset's glow will one day be but grains of sand. Those grains of sand an hourglass may fill, or as the glass may stand. For nothing is what it may seem, its finer substance lost to view, but one with life, the source from whence the architect rebuilds anew. And with the music of the spheres, the buds spring forth and grasses blow, while even as the rock does fall, its shattering crash is there to grow like cymbals in galactic space, a symphony of shooting stars. Time is measured in each place, yet time is not of millibars. Time is not at all, it seems. We only think that it is so. The only time is now, and now, and now. You see how time does go. And that's just part of it. But I thought of those words this morning. It said, now, and now, and now. You see how time does go. So what does time mean to you? What does time mean to you? I just checking my time here. Make sure that I'm keeping in. Yeah, in alignment. So think of that for you. Think of that. What is your intention for your whole life? Not just for this week. What would it be like to live in freedom? What would it be like to live in freedom, complete freedom? And I leave that with you. Complete freedom. And why is it important to be in touch with your own energy? Because that is the only thing that is the truth for you. No other authority outside yourself except the I am presence within you. Closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. I am. I am. I am. Closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. I am. I am. I am. I am. Namaste.